In 2016, researchers at the University of Alabama published a study on corporate leadership. They found that approximately 21% of senior executives in their sample met the clinical criteria for psychopathy. That's 1 in 5. The general population rate is approximately 1%. This wasn't a study of criminals. It was a study of people running companies, sitting in boardrooms, signing performance reviews, making hiring decisions. The finding wasn't that corporations attract psychopaths by accident. It was that the selection criteria used to identify and promote leadership talent, charisma, decisiveness, risk tolerance, strategic thinking, social dominance, correlate substantially with subclinical psychopathic traits. The system isn't being infiltrated. In some respects, the system is selecting for it. The Dark Triad is a cluster of 3 personality traits identified in psychological research as consistently co-occurring and consistently associated with interpersonal harm. Narcissism, psychopathy, Machiavellianism. They are not diagnoses. They are trait dimensions. Every human has some degree of each. The Dark Triad describes individuals who score significantly higher than average on all 3 simultaneously. These individuals are overrepresented in positions of power across virtually every domain studied. Politics, finance, law, entertainment, medicine, academia. Not because they are better at the work, but because they are better at the specific social and organizational behaviors that produce advancement. Understanding these traits, precisely, without demonization or sensationalism, is one of the most practically useful things you can do for your professional and personal life. Narcissism, as a trait dimension distinct from narcissistic personality disorder, involves an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, and a limited capacity for genuine empathy. The word comes from Narcissus, the figure in Greek mythology who fell in love with his own reflection. The metaphor is precise. The narcissistic individual experiences other people primarily as mirrors. Their value to the narcissist is determined by the quality of reflection they provide. Admiration, validation, and status confirmation are experienced as supply. Challenge, criticism, or perceived disrespect triggers what clinicians call narcissistic injury, and the responses to narcissistic injury range from cold withdrawal to explosive rage. In professional environments, narcissistic individuals frequently perform exceptionally well in roles requiring self-promotion, vision casting, and charismatic leadership. They are often genuinely magnetic, compelling in interviews, impressive in presentations, energizing in early relationships. The problems emerge over time. When the mirror stops reflecting perfectly. When subordinates become obstacles rather than audiences. When the organization's needs diverge from the individual's need for centrality. Psychopathy, again, as a trait dimension, involves reduced empathy, reduced fear response, increased impulsivity or calculated risk-taking, and a facility for superficial charm. The popular image of the psychopath as a violent predator is statistically inaccurate. Most psychopaths are not violent. Most are remarkably functional. The reduced fear response means they make decisions under pressure that others find paralyzing. The reduced empathy means they are not distracted by the emotional consequences of their choices on others. The superficial charm means they make consistently favorable first impressions. In competitive environments, these traits produce measurable advantages. Kevin Dutton at Oxford University argues in The Wisdom of Psychopaths that certain professions actively benefit from psychopathic trait profiles. Surgeons who need to cut without hesitation. Soldiers who need to act under threat without freezing. Negotiators who need to read emotional states without being captured by them. The trait isn't inherently destructive, but combined with Machiavellianism and narcissism, and placed in environments with insufficient accountability, it produces a specific pattern of harm that is both predictable and preventable. Machiavellianism, named after Niccolò Machiavelli, whose 16th century treatise The Prince described political power without moral constraint, involves strategic manipulation, a cynical view of human nature, and a willingness to use others as instruments for personal gain. The Machiavellian individual doesn't necessarily lack empathy. They have it. They use it diagnostically. Understanding your emotional state is not a source of connection for them. It's a map of your vulnerabilities. In organizational settings, high Machiavellians are expert political navigators. They identify alliances of convenience early. They manage upward with precision. They are rarely directly threatening. They operate through influence, information control, and the strategic deployment of relationships. Their harm is frequently invisible until it's already been done. People often describe being damaged by a Machiavellian colleague without being able to articulate exactly how or when it happened. That invisibility is the operational signature. When all 3 traits co-occur at high levels, the combination is more than the sum of its parts. The narcissism provides the motivation. The need to dominate, to be exceptional, to be recognized above others. The psychopathy provides the capability. Reduced empathic inhibition means actions that would paralyze others with guilt are executed without friction. The Machiavellianism provides the strategy, the patience, the political reading, the long game calculation. In professional environments, this combination typically presents initially as exceptional talent. The Dark Triad individual is often the most impressive person in an early meeting. The most decisive. The most visionary. The most charismatic. The pattern that emerges over time is consistent across research settings. Taking credit for collective work. Displacing blame onto subordinates. Undermining rivals through strategic information management. Creating environments of fear disguised as high standards. And most critically, selecting allies and subordinates who either share the traits or are too dependent on the individual's favor to risk challenging them. Dark Triad individuals don't harm randomly. They select targets. In professional environments, targets are typically individuals who pose a competitive threat, possess resources or status the individual wants, or are useful as scapegoats. In personal relationships, targets are typically individuals with high empathy, strong loyalty, established social proof, or resources. The selection process is often experienced by the target as being chosen, being seen, being valued, being mentored or loved. The early relationship feels like exceptional fortune. The diagnostic signal is the speed and intensity of the initial connection, and the specific nature of what is asked for or taken over time. Dark Triad individuals are extraordinarily skilled at identifying and activating the specific needs of their targets. They don't offer generic charm. They offer precisely what you most want to receive. Which is why the recognition, when it finally arrives, is so disorienting. The person who seemed to understand you better than anyone, understood you well enough to know exactly how to use you. The organizational research on Dark Triad leadership is extensive and consistent. Teams led by high Dark Triad individuals show increased turnover, decreased psychological safety, increased stress metrics, and decreased performance on complex collaborative tasks. Despite this, Dark Triad leaders are promoted at above average rates. Because the metrics used to evaluate leadership potential measure individual performance, not the organizational health of the environment they create. Charisma reads well in interviews. Decisive risk-taking reads well in quarterly results. The damage to team cohesion, subordinate mental health, and organizational culture is measured later, often after the individual has already been promoted again. This is a systemic problem, not an individual one. The selection system rewards the presentation of leadership. And Dark Triad individuals are specialists in presentation. Practical detection of Dark Triad individuals in your professional or personal environment. Watch how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Service staff. Administrative employees. Junior colleagues with no political relevance. Dark Triad individuals frequently drop the performance of empathy when the audience is perceived as valueless. Watch for consistent credit displacement. Both taking credit for others' work and displacing blame downward with fluency and speed. Watch for the quality of their long-term relationships. Dark Triad individuals typically have a trail of relationships that ended badly, professionally and personally, and a consistent narrative in which the other party was always the problem. Watch for the gap between public persona and private behavior toward those with less power. The gap is the signal. And watch most carefully for the specific feeling of being intensely chosen. Being made to feel exceptional, quickly, specifically, in ways that seem to require you to reciprocate. That feeling isn't always a warning sign, but it is always worth examining. Defense against Dark Triad individuals in your environment is primarily structural. Maintain your own independent relationships. Dark Triad individuals systematically isolate targets from social checks for the same reason abusive partners do. Document decisions, contributions, and communications in writing. Credit displacement requires ambiguity to operate. Establish alliances with peers before you need them. Isolated individuals are significantly more vulnerable targets. Trust behavioral patterns over verbal presentations. What someone does consistently over time is diagnostic. What they say, even compellingly, is not. And be particularly careful about the specific vulnerability that Dark Triad individuals most reliably exploit. The need to feel exceptional. The desire to be chosen. The hope that someone sees in you what others have missed. These are not weaknesses to be ashamed of. They are human. But they are the specific entry points. And knowing your entry points is the beginning of protecting them. The researcher who discovered that 21% of corporate executives met psychopathy criteria was asked in an interview whether this finding frightened her. She said no. She said it clarified things. It explained patterns she had observed for years in organizational behavior that had seemed inexplicable. It explained why organizations built on stated values of collaboration and integrity so frequently produced environments of fear and exploitation. It explained why the people most obviously harming organizations were so frequently the ones being promoted. It didn't make the problem simpler, but it made it visible. And visible problems, unlike invisible ones, can be designed around, can be selected against, can be called by their name. In meetings, in hiring processes, in the conversations we have with ourselves when something feels wrong but we can't articulate why. The name matters. Because once you have it, the pattern stops feeling like your fault. Psycho Veil. The manual they never wanted you to have. Subscribe. Share this with someone navigating a workplace they can't quite explain. Final episode next. We bring everything together. Every bias. Every tactic. Every system. And answer the question this entire series has been building toward. If anyone can be manipulated, what does real protection actually look like? You've been warned.